Good morning. Um, I thought it was time. Easter is over. My schedule is freed up considerably. And I thought it was time to get back into the book of Psalms. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've been putting this off because the next psalm to look at is Psalm 23. And what do you do with Psalm 23? It's so iconic. Even outside of the church, people know Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. There are just several phrases in it that are so overwhelmingly meaningful that what else can be said about Psalm 23? But we'll try. Let me share my screen with you. There we go. And you'll see here that from our old friend Bible Gateway, I have the New Living Translation, Psalm 23. I've rearranged it a little bit into thought units. Each line now is not divided by Hebrew poetry, but by thought units. The Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. Now, in terms of the relationships that we find, the kind of relationships that we normally look for, there are very few. So let's come down here. And the first that we note is comparison. The Lord is compared to a shepherd. He's my shepherd. The next, we can notice an indicating word right here, the word for, and that is the only other overt relationship that we have that is in effect cause. I will not be afraid. You are close beside me. But the main relation that we have is the relationship of particularization. In particularization, we have a general declaration. And then we have particulars. So let's come back up here and we're going to kind of rearrange this so that we can see it as David meant it to be seen. First particular, I have all I need. Second, he leads me to rest and peace. Let's divide those. Let's say he gives me rest. And then he leads me to peace. The next one, he renews my strength. And then he guides me in righteousness. He is close by me when I'm in the dark. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. So he protects and he comforts me. He feeds me even before my enemies. He anoints my head with oil, and he blesses me to overflowing. Now we come down to verse 6, and suddenly verse 6 is a little bit different. Come on here. In verse 6, we have sort of the concluding concluding statement here. And actually, what we find is that this concluding statement ends up being a different general declaration. Now, this happens from time to time. You start with one general declaration, you have particulars. And you end with a separate, different general declaration. All of these things all of these particulars that we can see right here are particulars of what a shepherd does. A shepherd provides for his sheep, gives rest, gives peace, helps them renew their strength. He guides them, he's by them, protects and comforts, he feeds, he anoints, he blesses them. But in a different way, looking now not at the metaphor of the sheep and the shepherd, rather looking at the things that God does for us, we can summarize that in a general declaration that goodness and mercy are mine. Well, let's get into some of the statements that David makes here. We'll begin to ask some questions that might help us as we try to understand what the psalm means. One of the first things that, of course, we could go back, look at shepherd. What we'll find is that shepherd is a frequent metaphor for kings, what kings do to their subjects. And that is certainly here. We could look We could look at resting in green meadows, peaceful streams, what strength is. All of these would give us probably meaningful results, but they would also be very, very long studies. We come to this statement: your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. Rod and staff. Now I have another program here. The program is called Logos. And in this program, I can actually look up, based on an English word, I can look up the Hebrew word behind it. And I have several searches that are here. The word rod, you'll see it occurs 190 times in the Old Testament. And you'll see that common translation in Genesis 49:10, you get scepter. In Exodus 21:20, a rod. The scepter is a rod-like object used by a king to denote his authority. A rod here in Exodus 21:20 is what is used to correct a male or female slave. You get scepter again in Numbers 24. But if you'll look here, the vast majority, it's translated tribe or tribes or portion of a tribe. Now you do get staff here in the book of Judges. When you come to the book of Psalms, Job and Psalms, starting right here, all of a sudden you get rod, punishment, scepter. It kind of goes back to what appears to be the very essential meaning, that of a rod. I'm not totally sure why it's translated tribe in other places. In the book of Proverbs, it's completely rod, and it's completely what's used to correct a person. Now, there are two verses that really merit our attention. Jeremiah 10:16 says, the portion of Jacob is not like these. He is the creator of everything, and Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name. And then again in 51:19, the portion of Jacob is not, well, it's the same verse. The tribe of Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. Now that could show us why tribe is important here. Tribe is kind of what God uses in the world to show his authority. Rod, nevertheless, is something that the shepherd would use to correct the sheep. Here we have the word staff. Way fewer, it means staff, primarily a walking stick. Shepherds did use staffs, and they used the staff both for personal support and to direct the sheep. So we come back here. Rod and staff appears to be correction, and guidance. Why does, or rather, what does it mean to anoint someone's head? Well, coming back here to Bible Gateway, if we plug in the word anoint, we get a list of everywhere that it occurs. There we go. And we start looking through this list, and we begin to pull out, first of all, we see 133 different places where the word anoint is used. I'm going to cut back here with the results of what I found. Let's get this question on the second page. And first of all, Aaron's head is anointed in Exodus 29:7, Leviticus 8:12, and Psalm 133:2. You remember the Psalm, how wonderful it is when brothers dwell together in harmony. It's like oil running down the head of Aaron. The high priest is anointed. That occurs in Leviticus 21:10. One being purified is anointed in Leviticus 14:18, and then again in verse 29. Saul was anointed David was anointed, and then Jehu is also anointed. If you look at that list, what that list seems to imply is God's authority is placed on these people. The anointing is a symbol of God's authority. Let's take a look at goodness and mercy. We'll come back to this program. Another search that I have. Goodness occurs 456 times in the Old Testament. And it is generally just the word good. Like we see in Genesis 1, the end of each day, God saw that it was good. And on and on, we see the word mercy occurs 239 times. And it's translated in the New Living Translation, faithful love, graciousness, kindness, loyalty, favor, approval. It's all of those words that revolve around giving a positive review of someone. Interesting that only here in Psalm 23 do we get goodness and mercy occurring together. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life. So we get God's favor and blessing. And then the final phrase, I'll live in the house of the Lord forever. The house of the Lord, again, if we go back to Bible Gateway, we can type in the phrase, house of the Lord. And we see that house of the Lord occurs 24 times. And it always refers to the place God dwells, either the tabernacle or the temple. But it is interesting that dwell in the house of the Lord only occurs here and in Psalm 27:4. It's worthwhile to go there just to see what it says. The one thing I ask of the Lord, the thing I seek most, is to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, delighting in the Lord's perfections, meditating in his temple. Psalm 23 is a beautiful psalm. It talks about God's care and protection of us as his sheep, and does so in such a way that we can see several of the wonderful things that God does for us. He corrects us, he guides us, he feeds us, provides for us, he blesses us, he gives us his authority, he renews us, he leads us into righteousness. And as a result, his goodness and mercy follow us, and we dwell with him. Hey, I hope you enjoyed Psalm 23. Hope you learned something new. We'll get back into Psalms here probably next week.